All right, so let's dive right into it today.
Right into it.
We're tackling a pretty, I guess, universal homeowner fear,
Mm-hmm.
basement flooding.
Oh, yeah.
And specifically, we're looking at the drain backups that can cause this.
Yeah, those are scary for sure. Nobody wants to go down to their basement and find a swimming pool.
Yeah, right.
Especially, I'm thinking like, finished basements.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got the big screen TV down there and
Yeah, the man cave or
yeah,
or whatever you have going on down there.
the family room.
Yeah,
And so, obviously we want to prevent this from happening.
right.
So I guess first things first, what are the main culprits behind this? What are the things that cause these floods to happen?
Well, I think one of the big ones is blockages.
Okay.
So you've got, over time things build up in your pipes.
You're right.
We're talking hair, we're talking grease,
Things that shouldn't be flushed.
things that shouldn't be flushed but inevitably end up there.
Uh-huh.
And that can, kind of create a dam, so to speak.
Right.
And then all of a sudden the water's got nowhere to go but up.
It's going the wrong way.
Yeah,
Yeah, like a traffic jam in your pipes.
exactly.
So, okay, so that's blockages. What else do we have to be wary of?
Pipe damage.
Okay.
So, over time, pipes can corrode,
Especially in older homes?
especially in older homes. Tree roots are notorious for getting into pipes.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, they can really cause some problems.
Right.
And even, construction work, even if it's not on your property,
Oh, wow.
if they're doing work on the street nearby,
Uh-huh.
that can cause, shifts and things like that. That can damage pipes.
Interesting. Okay, so it's not just about what we're putting down the drain. It's also about the drain itself.
Exactly.
And then, of course, we can't forget about Mother Nature's contribution to this.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Right.
Heavy rainfall.
Yeah, especially in a place like Toronto.
Yeah.
We get our fair share of storms.
We do. And I know that they can put a lot of stress on the sewer systems.
Absolutely. The systems can get overwhelmed, and when that happens, the water's got to go somewhere.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, sometimes it ends up in people's basements.
Yeah, so we've got blockages, we've got pipe damage, we've got heavy rainfall, all potentially conspiring against our basements.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. All right, so before I start panicking,
Right.
let's talk solutions.
Okay.
What can we do to prevent this watery nightmare?
Well, I think the first line of defense is maintenance.
Okay.
Regular drain cleaning and inspections.
So just like keeping things flowing.
Yeah, think of it like a checkup for your plumbing system.
Okay, so just a little TLC for our pipes goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Okay, but what about more serious protection, when we're talking about those torrential downpours?
Right. Well, that's where sump pumps come in.
Sump pumps, okay.
They're kind of like the bouncers for your basement.
Okay, I like that.
They pump out any unwanted water that tries to sneak in.
But what happens if the power goes out during a storm?
That's a great question, and that's why it's so important to have a battery backup system.
Oh, okay, so that even if the power goes out, the sump pump can keep running.
Exactly. You don't want your sump pump to be high and dry, so to speak, when you need it the most.
So these battery backups, how long can they run for?
Well, some of them can run for days.
Wow, that's impressive.
It gives you real peace of mind knowing that even if the power's out for a while,
Right.
your basement's still protected.
Okay, so we've got maintenance, we've got sump pumps. What other secret weapons do we have in our arsenal?
Well, another key player is the backwater valve.
Backwater valve.
Okay, it's basically a one-way door for your drain.
Interesting.
So wastewater can flow out, but it can't come back in.
So it's like a line in the sand
Yeah.
against those wastewater invasions.
Exactly. And this is especially important, during those heavy rainfalls when the sewer systems are overwhelmed.
Okay, so it's not just about preventing backups from inside our homes. It's also about protecting against external forces.
Right.
Okay, great. So those are some great preventative measures. But how can we tell if there's a problem brewing before it becomes a full-blown flood? Are there any early warning signs that we should be looking out for?
Absolutely. One of the biggest ones is slow drainage.
Okay.
So if you notice that your sinks, your tubs, your showers are taking a really long time to drain, that's a sign that something's up.
Okay.
And then also trust your nose. If you start to smell any unusual odors coming from your drains,
Right.
like a musky sewer smell,
Yeah, that's never a good sign.
that's a sign that trouble might be brewing.
Okay, so slow drains, funky smells.
Yeah.
Gotta all be on the lookout for those. But what happens if we find ourselves facing a plumbing situation that's a little bit beyond our, DIY skills? Who do we call for backup?
Well, thankfully, there are companies out there that specialize in these kinds of problems.
Yeah.
And one that comes to mind is Master Drain.
Master drain.
They offer a full range of services from, drain inspections to repairs.
Right.
And they have a stellar track record of keeping basements dry.
So they're all like the superheroes of the plumbing world.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
All right, so we've got master drain on our side, but what sets them apart? What makes them the go-to solution for all things drain related?
I think one thing that really sets them apart is their proactive approach.
Okay.
They don't just wait for problems to happen. They work with homeowners to prevent them in the first place.
I like that. So it's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about preventing the break from happening in the first place.
Exactly.
Do you have any examples of how this preventative approaches work for people?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've got tons of customer success stories. I was reading about one homeowner, Kurt,
Okay.
and he had like a real nightmare situation.
Oh, no.
He had a drain backup under his concrete floor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a real mess. But Master Drain came in, they found the blockage, they fixed the pipe, and they saved the day.
Wow. So it sounds like they really went above and beyond.
They did. They did.
Okay, so now I'm convinced master drain is the real deal. But let's be honest, all this prevention talk probably has people thinking about the cost.
Right.
Is this going to break the bank?
Well, that's the great thing about it is that the City of Toronto actually offers a fantastic program called the Basement Flooding Protection Subsidy Program.
Okay.
And this program can cover up to 80% of the cost of installing flood prevention devices.
Wow, 80%. That's incredible.
It's a fantastic program.
I bet a lot of people don't even know about this.
You'd be surprised a lot of homeowners are missing out on this valuable resource.
Okay, well, we're spreading the word.
We are.
All right, so that's good news. But even with the subsidy, people probably still want to have some idea of what we're talking about cost-wise.
Sure.
What are some ballpark figures for, say, a sump pump installation?
Well, typically you're looking at somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000 for a sump pump installation, but of course that can vary depending on, the specifics of your home.
Right.
And the type of sump pump that you choose.
And remember that 80% subsidy can make a big difference.
Absolutely. That can really bring the cost down.
Right. So it's a smart investment that could potentially save you thousands down the line.
Exactly.
But even with the sump pump, what happens when the power goes out? Doesn't that defeat the purpose?
That's where those battery backup systems we talked about come in.
Right.
They're essential.
Okay, so no more panicking when the lights go out during a storm.
Exactly.
But I'm curious, what kind of batteries are we talking about here? Are these like massive things taking up half my basement?
No, not at all. They're usually quite compact.
Okay.
They're sealed, they're maintenance-free. You don't really have to think about them.
Okay.
They're just there in the background doing their job.
So they're not going to add to the basement clutter.
No, not at all.
All right, but how long can these backup systems actually run for? Is it enough to get through a typical power outage?
Well, that's the amazing part. Some of these systems can run for days on a single charge.
Days. Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
That's peace of mind. Even
Yeah.
during, a multi-day power outage.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now I'm really feeling good about preventing those basement floods.
Mm-hmm.
But even with all these precautions, sometimes things happen, right?
Right.
What should people do if they discover their basement is actually flooding?
Okay, well, first and foremost, safety first.
Okay.
If you see standing water, don't go down there until you've confirmed that the power is off.
Right.
Water and electricity do not mix.
I want to get electrocuted.
No, absolutely not.
So safety first.
Yeah.
But what about the water? Do we just stand back and watch the disaster unfold?
No, definitely not once you've made sure it's safe.
Okay.
Try to stop the source of the water if possible.
Right.
So if it's a burst pipe, shut off the water supply. If it's something manageable, you can start removing valuable.
Yeah, get things up off the floor.
Exactly, soaking up water with towels and mops. But if things are getting out of hand, it's time to call in the professionals, a water damage restoration company.
Right, those flood fighting experts.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's about knowing your limits and calling for reinforcements when needed.
Right.
All right, so let's shift gears back to prevention. We've covered a lot. What are some other key tips to keep those drains flowing smoothly and prevent backups?
Well, one of the biggest things is avoid pouring grease down the drain.
Okay.
It solidifies and creates these really stubborn clogs that are just a plumber's nightmare.
So no more pouring bacon grease down the drain.
Exactly.
Okay, what?
And be mindful of what you flush.
Okay.
Only human waste and toilet paper belong there.
Everything else goes in the trash.
Everything else goes in the trash.
Okay, so no more treating my drain like a garbage disposal.
Exactly.
Got it. All right, let's circle back to those backwater valves.
Mm-hmm.
They seem like such a simple but effective solution.
KR.
How exactly do they work their magic?
They're pretty ingenious, actually.
Yeah, so walk me through it. How do these backwater valves actually work?
Basically, it's like a one-way door for your drain.
Oh,
So wastewater can flow out, but if it tries to come back in, the valve closes and prevents a backup.
so it's like a security system for my drains.
Exactly.
Only letting the good stuff out and keeping the bad stuff out.
That's a good way to put it.
I like it.
Yeah.
But how do I know if I need one of these backwater valve superheroes?
Well, if you live in an area that's prone to sewer backups or, heavy rainfall,
Uh-huh.
a backwater valve can be a real lifesaver.
Okay.
It just adds that extra layer of protection against those external threats.
So it's not just about internal drain issues, it's also about protecting against those external forces that can cause flooding.
Right.
Got it. Now, let's say I'm convinced I want one of these backwater valves protecting my basement. Is it a DIY project, or do I need to call in the pros?
Installing a backwater valve definitely requires a licensed plumber. They have the expertise to make sure it's installed correctly and it's up to code.
Right, it's not something you want to gamble with.
Exactly.
Okay, so leave it to the experts, makes sense. But like everything else, I'm guessing this comes with a price tag.
It does.
How much should people budget for a backwater valve installation?
Typically, the costs can range from $1,500 to $3,000,
Oh.
depending on, the specifics of your home.
Right, yeah.
But again, you have to remember that fantastic City of Toronto subsidy program
Right.
that we talked about.
Up to 80%.
Up to 80%. So you could get a significant portion of that cost covered.
That's huge.
It is.
Okay, so it's a smart investment that could actually end up costing you a lot less than you think.
Absolutely.
But once it's installed, do you just forget about it, or is there maintenance involved?
Like anything, a little maintenance goes a long way.
Yeah.
Backwater valves need to be inspected regularly
Uh-huh.
just to make sure they're free of debris and that they're working properly.
Okay, so regular checkups are key.
They-
All right, now before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to regular drain cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be the most glamorous topic,
Right.
but it seems like it's such a crucial part of flood prevention.
It is.
How often should people be getting their drains professionally cleaned?
Well, as a general rule of thumb, once a year is a good starting point.
Okay.
But, if you have older pipes
Ah.
or if you start to notice any slow drainage,
Right.
you might want to consider more frequent cleanings.
So it's all about being proactive and staying ahead of those potential problems.
Exactly.
Well, this whole conversation has been incredibly insightful.
Good.
I feel much more prepared to tackle those basement flood fears.
I'm glad to hear that.
Any final words of wisdom you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Well, just remember, proactive drain care is your secret weapon against basement flooding.
Okay.
By understanding the causes, taking preventative measures, knowing the early warning signs, you can keep your basement dry and worry-free.
Right. And if you ever need help, experts like Master Drain are just a phone call away.
Absolutely.
Perfectly said. And a final thought for our listeners to ponder.
Okay.
If you could design the ultimate basement flood prevention system, what would it look like?
Interesting question.
Let us know what you come up with. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into preventing basement flooding.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, stay dry.